All right, we are back live, apparently, on the Johnny Torch live program. This is my first attempt to do a full show with the new OBS software, thanks to YouTube, unceremoniously showing people like myself that don't know how to do this kind of thing the door, because now we have to learn a whole new system of doing it. I don't know if this is going to work or not. So you're gonna have to bear with me for a moment as I see if this is working. I want to see if this is live. Let's see. It's not showing up here. So let me see. Okay, yeah, now it's showing up. Alright, it's saying we're live. Alright, here we go. With the grace of God, this is going to work. I'm going to tell you right off the bat right now, I am not going to monkey around with the images and showing images. I got to learn more about that. Again, it's a work in progress. We're going to try to take things slowly but surely. So you're just going to see the Bullets Bourbon logo here on the page. Hopefully that is what is showing. And I do have the chat room up. I believe I can see it here. Yes, sirree. So if you have any any advice for how to handle this, I'll be happy to listen and learn. Also, before we get started, let's see. Yeah, I can't schedule the stream. I mean, I think there is a way to schedule it. So, again, I figure nobody's probably knows that this show is even on right now. But eventually I'll learn how to, use the event function again and be able to put out a notice ahead of time that the show's going to start. But as of now, this is the way we are doing things. So, okay, thank you for joining us live. If you're watching live, thank you. If you're watching this after the fact, I hope it shows up. I did a 2-minute test stream on Wednesday, and I don't know what happened to it. It never showed up. Maybe because I made it private, and this one is public, so maybe I'll be able to find it after the fact. I am not sure. But, yeah, for all intents and purposes, it seems like we're a go, so let's start with the show proper. Welcome in. I'm your host, Johnny Torch, here on the only way to spend your Saturday here with us on Johnny Torch Live. And we have a Torch News Roundup. We haven't done one in quite a while because we took a couple of weeks off just to recharge the batteries, because the new software was going to be something I had to learn, and I was trying to see what the most popular one was, and OBS seemed to be the go-to a lot of the professionals went with that were using Hangouts on air. So I had to familiarize myself with that, and, like I said, it's a work in progress. Eventually, I think I'll get the hang of it. It's a little bit rustic now, a little rough around the edges, but we'll get there. Want to remind you to check out the link in the description below, and you can check out my comic, The Adventures of Bullets Bourbon Private Eye. We just put out the graphic novel version of When the Night Comes, collecting issues 4, 5, and 6, remastered, so the color looks better than ever. The 4th issue was relettered. The 5th issue was actually relettered too. I boosted the characters a little bit so that they were easier to read. So it came out wonderfully. It's perfect. It's the masterpiece I always wanted it to be. We are working now on the second remaster, issues 2 and 3, which are going to be collected in a graphic novel form. It's going to be called Knock on Wood. The 2 issues, of course, Knock on Wood and Who Done It. The meeting of Bullets Bourbon and Pencil Neck for the first time. So you want to get your hands on that when that is ready to go, probably sometime at the end of the year. Possibly the beginning of next year, depending on how long I have to go. And then we're going to work on the remaster of the first issue. It's always something, and it always is, too, with me and Bullets Bourbon. But that was the spectacular first issue, and we're going to remaster that one. That one I have to go back to the source and just, recolor it entirely and letter it, re-letter it. So that is our project. Of course, Bullets Bourbon number 7 is kind of on hold. It's kind of on hiatus. I go over and tinker with it once in a while and do a little coloring and clean up for pre-production kind of, but we probably won't get to that until the spring. Kind of disappointed in that because I don't like looking backwards. I'm not the type of, I'm not the George Lucas type of director, like I said before, that wants to go back and clean up old stuff. Once I do something, it's canon, I put it away, warts and all, and I just move on forward. But I really need to get these remasters done because so much work needs to be done on them. And if I just wait and put it off, it's not fair to the readers, because I want them to get a class quality project, something that you could really be proud of. And now that I've come so far learning how to color digitally and letter digitally, I want it to obviously look as good as it possibly can. So I've got to take some time to do that and make sure all things are on the beam, so to speak. Alright, so with that, also, of course, check the link in the description below if you want to follow me on Twitter and tweet around with all the tweet heads. Always happy to do that. We'll be talking more about my couple of weeks from now. I think 4 weeks from today, is it, that Granite State Con, yours truly, will be appearing there. I was tempted to do another con this summer, but I kind of thought it was better to just, take it easy and just work on the books. It takes a lot of effort and energy to do a con, and I figured we'd get the best one at the end here with Granite State Con, so we're going to just put all our efforts into that one, and it's going to be a really great show. It was last year. I really enjoyed it a lot. People probably saw me going around with my camera taking snapshots. It really is one of the greatest cons I've been at, and it's, like I've always said, it's definitely the best con in the state of New Hampshire. Also, hit that like button, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. And we will continue on here now with our stories. Alright, first off, let's see. Krypton has been destroyed. Yes, Krypton has been laid low. Unfortunately, Krypton, the TV series, has been canceled. Now, this was very disappointing to me. They seem to know this is what they were going to do. Usually, TV networks sort of hedge their bets, and they play coy, and they wait a couple of weeks after the show's been off the air, and then they cancel it. Or they could cancel it like 4 months in advance, and sort of just give the showrunners time to sort of construct something, semblance of an ending to the series. Neither happened here. They canceled it immediately the day after the final episode aired. I was skeptical of this show, and to be honest, the first season was a little rough, a little rocky. But by the end of the first season, and definitely during the second season, I thought the show really caught fire, and they did a great job, making you want to tune in every week. This was obviously a lot of work is put into it. It seems like it was a very, high-budget show. That might have been something to do with the cancellation, but we got Doomsday, a very articulate-looking version of Doomsday that was, movie quality. General Zod, played by Colin Salmon, who was just fantastic in the role, and I know I complain about race-changing characters, but, he really did a great job as General Zod. And we get the story of Jor-El's father, basically, and Brainiac, also another character that looked great. Great visual representation of. And the show, sadly, I guess, didn't get the views that is required of a station like Sci-Fi, which is sad because, I mean, the CW, their projects, their product, so to speak, it's been subpar for some time, and yet they continue to go on, because regardless of the ratings, they still are satisfied with a minimum rating, with a 0.1 or something, that'll still get you, like, 5 seasons more. Not so on Sci-Fi. Maybe it was the high cost of the show. I'm not sure. Alright, let's see. According to Deadline, Warner Horizon Scripted Television is in talks with other outlets in a bid to keep Krypton going so we can see it live on elsewhere. Both DC Universe and HBO Max are possibilities, but time will tell on that front. What led Sci-Fi to scrap the series? Well, while it was the network's most watched new show since 2014 when it premiered in 2018, ratings dipped around 50% by the time it returned this year, and Sci-Fi relies on linear ratings to monetize a series that comes from outside studios, so it simply wasn't worth keeping around. Very sad, very disappointed about that. I'll take a few minutes here to sort of review the season, because I love doing the review shows, and really nobody watched them, so, I'll just do a, 5-minute, 10-minute encapsulation of the season and the show in general. We got Jor-El, finally, Corvex was christened Jor-El, and it was something that we pretty much expected to happen, but they made it official that Nyssa was the mother of Jor-El. Zod apparently killed his mother, Lyta, and then not, because it happened to have been a clone. Again, I don't know, I always thought Lyta was the weakest link in the show. I didn't really think there was much they could do with that character, so I wasn't sad to see her go, but it was a clone, and she came back. She was under the influence of the Black Mercy, which was sort of what they did with Zod to put him out to pasture. They put him under the influence of the Black Mercy, which I thought was somewhat unethical. They kind of had the thing where, we can't put him into the Phantom Zone, he'll just escape. Because, obviously in the future he escapes to fight Superman, but, at least they kept him around. They didn't change the script, that Jor-El would, or I should say, Zod would die before even meeting Kal-El, which is kind of, the concern I had. Doomsday, again, he survived to fight eventually. Adam Strange, one of my favorite characters in the show, he finally got the suit and the jetpack. I didn't think it was really necessary that they had him paralyzed from the waist down. I don't know the character too well from the comics. I think I might have seen him in 2 comics in my entire life. But did he need to have the suit on in order to walk? I don't know. But I thought that was kind of unnecessary. It's like, well, we can't have him wearing this, garish costume and still, consider ourselves a serious drama, so we'll, I didn't think that was necessary, but at least they gave him the suit at some point. And of course the big draw was Emmett Scanlon, I believe is his name, the actor who played, he was in Guardians of the Galaxy. He played the man who would be Spectre on the original Constantine show, the TV series. And my favorite, he actually played Paul the Apostle in the TV show called A.D., I believe. That was the name of it. I really loved the way he did Paul. I would have liked to see that continue on. Unfortunately, it didn't. That was another show canceled before its time. His version of Lobo was sort of a Cockney, I guess, sort of a tough guy from Liverpool. I don't know exactly where they get that accent from, but a little different from what I expected, but he looked spot on, was very convincing in the character, realized very well in all his sort of brutish, thuggish glory. So that was fun. Apparently, they were going to spin off Lobo. We heard about this, chatter about this, a couple of months ago, that they were going to give him a spin-off show, The Main Man, and now, unfortunately, The Main Man is no longer getting that show. They left the ending of the series open, where Seg was going to go off with, I suppose I should have said spoilers before all of this, but I guess you get the idea. If you cared about this show, you would have known by now. Seg was going to go off with Lobo to try to find Jor-El, who had been kidnapped by Brainiac. Meanwhile, Nyssa went off on her own using Adam Strange's time travel device to somehow find herself on Thanagar, where she would apparently meet the Hawkmen people, the Thanagarians, which of course are the people of Hawkman. So it would have been pretty exciting had the show lasted. I don't know if it is going to make it anywhere else. I think the best bet is probably DC Universe. I think it would fit in pretty well there, but again, I don't really know. They canceled Swamp Thing before it was even a full season. I mean, they canceled it before the show even aired more than, I believe, like 2 episodes. So I don't know. It's touch and go whether that's really an outlet that would support Krypton, but I think it would probably be for the best. I think Sci-Fi and DC Universe kind of have the same show, budgets, so to speak. I think it would probably work well there. There was a hashtag trending last night, Save Krypton, which of course is the height of irony because Krypton explodes and will definitely need to explode. I hope they didn't plan on changing that in this continuity. But yeah, great actors all around in the series. Like I said, one of the weak points, I wasn't too fond of Lyta because they had that sort of thing where it was they were the couple, you know what I mean? And there was no real lead up to it. It's just the show started with them being madly in love, and we really didn't see any reason why. They barely spent any time together. They just sort of made out, and then they would, because they were both from different sides of the track, so to speak. So that I didn't really buy that romance, and I kind of wanted to see her with Nyssa, and consequently, Dev was sort of her fiance, and I would have probably rather see Lyta with Dev, but now they kind of, this was kind of interesting. It didn't really come out of left field. They were sort of laying the groundwork for this, but Dev sort of kind of has a thing now going with Jaina, who is Lyta's mother, and they're kind of suggesting that they would be a couple, which, I don't know, I found that unusual. It's a May-December romance. That's not something we probably see a whole lot of, particularly with the male character being in the May category. But yeah, so I'm really disappointed to see this go. I think they had a couple of seasons left in them. I mean, we had, we possibly could have seen the childhood, the adulthood even of Jor-El before this show should have been canceled. Because, I mean, depending on how far you wanted to stretch it, doing time jumps and so on and so forth, you could have eventually had, Jor-El be the leading character after, Seg would be, I don't know, maybe replaced with Jor-El and have that show go on. And eventually, I don't know, we could have taken it right up to Kal-El and the destruction of Krypton. It just felt like there were still possibilities with this show. And it's sad to see it go. I hope that it will continue on and in some form or another in live action. But let me know what you think. What do you think in the comments below? If the comments still work below, I don't know how this works now. But what were your feelings on Krypton, and how do you feel about being canceled? And do you think it will or should return in the future? All right, another show that ended this past week. Gee, now that I think of it, I could probably talk about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. because that also ended while we were on hiatus, so to speak. So yeah, I'll briefly touch on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as well. To be honest with you, there is very little news this week, so I could bang out the the news in probably about 10 minutes. So we can talk somewhat about these things. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I thought it was a fantastic season. I thought it was a stellar season. We got Coulson back as Sarge. Or I guess I should say we got Clark Gregg back as Sarge. Because, well, he was sort of a byproduct of Coulson. I don't know. It was a bit convoluted, but somehow the monoliths created a duplicate of Coulson that was sent out into space and kind of became this renegade bounty hunter against, I don't remember what her name was, Siri, with the redhead with the bob. And I don't know, she would, plant crystals in people and they would turn into, I don't know, wackadoo stuff as I take a sip of a little H2O. But yeah, I mean, it was a really fun season. We got Deke back. He was pretty cool. I really love that actor. He brings a lot to the show with his comedic sensibilities. And I've always said the greatest romance couple that they have on television in the past 10 years has been Fitzsimmons, because they always find a way to keep them apart, and yet it doesn't feel contrived. I mean, when you take a look at something like Arrow when they tried to instill drama between Felicity and Oliver, it's always over some soap opera-ish, ridiculous cause. Whereas in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., there's always some kind of, earth-defying problem that they have to solve that separates them. Gemma's going into space, Fitz is, frozen and in space. They've come up with some pretty clever things, so it doesn't just seem like, you didn't put the right silverware out. Now we're not speaking, That's kind of the way it was on Arrow, that kind of stupid shenanigans. Again, they gave a good... I think they gave a good bit of time to all the characters. I don't think they really gave a whole lot for Daisy this season. She did have a good, sort of a good subplot at the end where she kind of, didn't know what to think about Sarge and whether to trust him and not, and looking at Coulson's farewell. That was kind of moving. And May, I think they played upon the relationship between her and Coulson. That was pretty cool. Mac, I thought, probably came out the best this season. He's the fledgling leader of S.H.I.E.L.D. now. He's the director, and he did a good job being director, basically. I mean, you got to see his growing pains, and there was stuff with Yo-Yo that, can he do the job and still have a relationship, and we kind of all knew they were going to get back together. But more on the business side of things, it was fun to see him sort of tackle the job and accept his place as Coulson's successor. And, of course, the cliffhanger here, it's very interesting. Apparently, because, you see, Coulson never died on screen. This time, anyway. I mean, obviously in Avengers. But he didn't die on screen, and everybody was kind of, waiting for him to come back in some capacity, but we just have May's word to go for that he died, and that it's basically the end for Coulson. This is it. So the way it looks like we've got Clark Gregg back again next season is they're going to use an LMD with his, mental processing circuits or something. So that's going to be interesting. At least we're going to have a Coulson back in, and I guess that's the way to go. I miss the original Coulson, you know what I mean? I want the original Coulson back, but if this could be sort of the original Coulson with, maybe with a robot body, this might be pretty fun. I don't know. All right, so there's my thoughts on... Gee, I'm not giving these rankings, am I? Let me see. I'm going to say... yeah, I think Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I'm going to give this one maybe 4.5 stars out of 5 this season. Yeah, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., yeah, it was really good. 4.5 stars out of 5. And for Krypton Season 2, yeah, maybe the same. Maybe 4 stars out of 5 for Krypton. Yeah, let's just go with it. I'll say 4 stars out of 5 for Krypton. So, yeah, that it's been, the summer hiatus season has actually been more fun, I think, than the typical fall season. I really loved all the shows this summer. Cloak and Dagger, even, that's, I think, considered a summer show. It started like in May or something. That was even better this year than it was last year. Again, if I was to give that one a ranking, maybe 3.5 stars out of 5, because it was still kind of out there. But again, a lot of improvement from the first season. So yeah, we got a lot of cool stuff this summer. I was surprised, because you would think, I kind of thought Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. would still deliver, but everybody sort of fired on all thrusters, including Legion. See the segue? See what I did there? Legion. We had the Legion finale this is season 3, and I placed season 2 last year in last place. I'm going to turn on the fan a little bit, so just give me a second while I as I monkey around with these controls here. Try to put it on low so it doesn't affect the broadcasting. Alright. It's still kind of warm out there, isn't it? Summer is not over. Alright, so Legion, yeah, last season I wasn't too fond of it, wasn't thrilled. But this season they really, oh, let's see, we got a question here from Hunter Iggy. I'm glad to see this is working. I'm really excited to see that I can still stream, because for a while there I was worried. All right, Hunter says, who from MCU or Star Wars actress or actor should join the DCEU? That's a good question. Let's see. Let me think. A Star Wars actor or actress. I would love to see Ewan McGregor do something in the MCU. He's going to be playing Black Mask, I think, in the DCEU. Oh, you're saying who should join the DCEU? I got that backwards for a second there. Oh, okay. Yeah, so that would be quite the opposite. All right, so from the MCU to the DCU. Let's see. Star Wars. Let's try Star Wars first. Let me look at Star Wars. I think the Star Wars actor that would join the DCEU, pretty good. You know, I wish Hayden Christensen got a better shake as an actor. I thought he was good, and I could see him playing, you know, playing something, but I don't know if I can put my finger on it, but since Ewan McGregor's already taken, I would probably say Hayden Christensen. But I can't think of who he could play. That's the problem. But I mean, I'd like to see him do something else. Let's see, from the MCU, gee, I don't know. Kind of put me on the spot, but I would probably say maybe Vin Diesel. Would be fun to see Vin Diesel do something. Because, you know, he's technically in the MCU because he's playing Groot. But, I don't know, something about Vin Diesel. I think he would play, like, you know, I don't know, maybe, you know, I can't think of too many, like, burly guys that are in the DCEU. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know. But thanks for the question, Hunter. I hope I didn't disappoint you with those. Because, I don't know, I kind of was put on the spot. I promise, I'll think about this one and talk about it next show. And see if I can put a little more thought into it, because I don't know. I didn't really know what comes to mind. So I'll think about it some more. All right, we're talking about Legion now. That just went off the air finally for the final time. And like I said, last season I wasn't too crazy about it. I think it warmed up near the end. The end of season 2 was pretty good. And this season, though, I have to say they actually impressed me. I think it was the best season of all the Legion seasons. The first season was good because it was novel and it was different, you know, having characters break out into song and you know, sort of the crazy eclectic nature of the, you know, the sort of acid trip Alice in Wonderland type style. It was different, and I think that's what kind of got people's attention. And then the second season, they kind of spiraled off into just being as weird as they could for the sake of it. And I sort of lost interest. I didn't know what was going on with the guy with the wicker basket on his head and the girls with the mustaches. You know what I mean? It just sort of started feeling like weirdness for the sake of being weird. But this season they focused up. They sort of delivered on the promise of how to they were going to sort of redeem David, which I was so uninterested with the second season that I don't even really remember exactly what it was that he did that was so terrible. Now I think it was he mind controlled Sid. Is that what it was? And she found out that after they had a romantic encounter, so to speak, and that was pretty skeevy, and it's sort of, I kind of feel two ways about that. On the one hand, it is skeevy and ugly and stuff, but on the other hand, it's kind of like after that, they characterized David as being unredeemable. And I didn't know if that was entirely fair. Also, I think what they did was they also softened Sid and her flaws. Because that's kind of what I liked about the first season and sort of halfway through the second season was they were two flawed individuals. And they were kind of on equal footing. But after he did that, that was kind of, you know, changing the balance of power. In the case of Sid, she changed places with her mother to, once again, be in a romantic situation with her mother's boyfriend, which was also very skeevy and uncomforting, but at the same time, they kind of walked that back this season, and they were like, you know, she was sort of a naive 15-year-old, whatever she was at the time, and then that kind of excuses her for doing something like that, which she knew full well was wrong. And I think they kind of tried to back her out of that being wrong, while they still kind of wanted to hammer David into the unredeemable or irredeemable peg. And I didn't think that was right. I didn't think that was fair. But, you know, that's kind of what my problem was with this season, with the finale. With the finale was that it was basically wish fulfillment. And usually when you do a show about going back in time, which is what this season pretty much focused on, you kind of have to have the price. You know, you have to have a price. You can't go back and just change everything and everything is peachy and hunky-dory. But in this case, they did. They made it that he could go back and change everything. And basically the only penance, so to speak, that he pays David for having time changed and having the Shadow King out of his head and what have you, was that he apparently isn't going to meet Sid and isn't going to ever be a relationship between them. There isn't going to be a relationship between them. And again, I felt that was more like punishing David for what he did more than... Because as you can see, they never, at the end, reconcile. And it was, again, this is kind of... There were a couple that I was kind of pulling for, and I was kind of hoping that something good would come out of them meeting and both being damaged individuals. But they just... I don't know, they just couldn't have them reconcile because they didn't want David to somehow, I guess, be rewarded for his bad behavior. And in the same way, I think, you know, Sid was sort of given sort of a too good a look. You know what I mean? She was basically absolved of her crimes, but then David couldn't have been. So that was the problem I had with this season, or with the ending. Harry Lloyd, I believe, is the name of the actor that plays Professor X. I was surprised that it took me so long to realize that that was the same actor that played Will Scarlet in the Robin Hood BBC television series, because I love the Robin Hood BBC television series, and he played Will Scarlet for like 2 seasons, and he left at the end of the 2nd season. And I think he was a great choice to play Professor X. I thought he was really good as a young Professor X. It took a little while for me to recognize him, but, you know, he had sort of the same, but he was all grown up, and I guess that's the reason why I didn't recognize him. Okay, we got another question from Hunter. Let's see. What are your thoughts on Vin Diesel telling fans not to go see Hobbs and Shaw Fast and Furious spinoff? Oh, I didn't hear this. I wasn't aware of this. I didn't know he told them not to see it. I guess maybe that's because he wasn't in the movie. I don't know, because I know he's a big part of that franchise. I'm not really into that franchise. I've never seen any of those films, to be honest with you, but I did see the trailer for Hobbs and Shaw, and it looks great. I mean, I don't know. I've been tempted to go see it. I don't know if I'm going to have time. I got a lot of stuff going on in the next couple of weeks, so I don't know, but I probably should check it out. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what his problem is, other than maybe they passed over him and didn't give him a role. I don't know. He wanted a role maybe instead of what's the British actor's name? I can't remember his name right now, but that would have been interesting. I don't know. All right, so yeah, so we get into young Professor X, which is kind of interesting. The whole philosophical basis for the show was pretty interesting, because that's kind of the thing that kept me coming back to the show, because it wasn't afraid to ask a question that I think a lot of people would ask, but nobody, I don't believe, in fiction has ever, attempted to really broach the subject. But would you go back in time and try to undo the damage done to you as a child? Would you try to guide your parents, give them advice, try to tell them what they're doing wrong and what they should be doing? Would you try to help a loved one who is damaged? Like in the case of Sid, she ends up, I think, going back in time and having a second childhood that was a better childhood than her first. And she was, like, given that option. So, I don't know. I mean, I see Hunter has another question. I'm going to wait until after I get through with Legion before I answer that, Hunter, okay? Because I'm in the middle of this Legion review. I can't keep interrupting it or I'll be here all day. But, so it's like, would you give your loved one a second chance? Would you try to fix the brokenness in your own life if you could? And these are all interesting questions, and I'm glad that Legion broached them in their own weird, philosophical way with song and music, and that was one of the real interesting things. That really knocked me out. That knocked me off my feet when they had David in the straitjacket singing Pink Floyd's Mother. That that is just the show operating on another level. You know what I mean? Because they've done the song and musical things throughout the whole series. I think the only one that was close to this was Behind Blue Eyes, when they did that at the end of, I think that was the end of the second season. But this really sort of encapsulated what the story was about, really, with having to deal with what's been done to him. I don't know, I never really liked the song Mother, because it sounds too cynical for me. It sounds too whiny. Mother this, and, you know, you blame your mother for everything that's gone wrong in your life, you know what I mean? That sounds very soy to me, you know what I mean? It's like, just, you know, man up or whatever. I mean, it's one thing if you're talking about the kid being like 15 or something and you'd be bratty or whatever, but I mean, I think the song was really written to be about like a grown man sort of acting like his mother's overbearing and stuff. I mean, that's what your mother's supposed to do when you're a teenager. She's supposed to, you know, you're not supposed to really resent it either, but she's supposed to make sure you're on the straight and narrow. And I don't know, I just, that song never really sat well with me. I mean, it's a good song, don't get me wrong, and I think it worked really well in this context. And they had the duet also with David's mother, which was Xavier's wife. I can't remember what her name is, which also was an interesting choice. I thought they were just going to cut it, you know, before that ending part there. But what did that mean? What did that mean when having her sing all those things? Did that mean that's the potential future that David has now? That maybe his mother is going to turn him in a different direction, that he's not going to, you know, in other words, it's not going to be as easy for him as he thinks it will be by changing the past. Maybe his mother is going to put him in a different direction that is not going to be easy either. Again, these are a lot of questions that are asked that are never answered. I mean, I was kind of hoping maybe we'd get a coda at the end of the show that would show, you know, the new life of David and Sid, and if they ever met again, and how David was, maybe he's an X-Men now, who knows. But they didn't do that, I think maybe because they wanted also to sort of back off and think that maybe in the future someday they could rebroach this series with maybe a movie or something, I don't know. Also, you have to figure that I think the MCU, you know, Disney, they didn't want this show lasting anymore. It's the reason why they got rid of The Gifted, because now everything is under the umbrella of Disney. So, again, you know, and a very interesting turn of events with the Shadow King. He basically grew. It's like he got the second chance that you wouldn't expect him to get. You expect the heroes to get the second chance, but not quite the villains. But he ended up going back and convincing his younger self not to harass David, which I don't know exactly. I mean, he showed him the horrors of what would happen, I guess, if he harassed him. But I don't know if we really understood why he was tormenting that kid in the first place. At least I didn't quite get it, but... Anyway, a lot to talk about. This show really did resonate with me. At least the finale did. Like I said, it was touch and go. We didn't even get to the Carries. They were, you know, that was an interesting subplot all on its own. But again, yeah, it was a very interesting finale. I would recommend it. You know, if you're not put off by that kind of craziness, that kind of acid trip stuff. But like I said, it did have a lot of interesting questions. Like I said, I don't know how this changes the future for Charles either. Is he going to still be the leader of the X-Men now that he's a family man? Because the whole idea was that he was going off and doing things and he wasn't there for his family. Now he's going to be there for his family. Is he going to still create the X-Men? You know, it leaves a lot of questions, and I'm not sure that you know, that I don't think there's any easy answers. I mean, you can't. They didn't give us any hints as to how it would turn out, and you have to remember, you know, it's just that there's no consequences, it seems. You know what I mean? There should be a consequence. And so far, like I said, David and Sid splitting up seems to be the only consequence. I can only believe everybody else resumed their life and made it normal. Switch, by the way, yeah, I should mention Switch quickly. An interesting character. I don't know exactly what they were trying to do with her at the end. I don't know. She was sort of going to her own heaven or something like that. Again, that was a little weird, but she lived on a different plane at the end of it all, and it seemed rewarding considering what she'd been through. So, all right, let me wrap this up here. We're taking a long time with this, I guess. But Legion, I'm going to give this season 4 stars out of 5, I think. I don't know, maybe 4.5. Again, it's tough because I'd have to look at the whole season again, you know, but I think it was really cool seeing him actually get to the point where he said, "I am Legion," and they all came out, all the Davids from his psychosis or whatever. I mean, it was really entertaining. So I'm going to say 4 stars, but if I could say 4.25 star, that's probably what I'd give it for Legion this season. All right. Thank you, Hunter, for being very patient with me as I got through that. Let me see. Hunter asks, what is your thoughts on Dwayne Johnson and Vin Diesel don't like each other in and on set in real life? Again, I wish I knew more about this. I don't know a whole lot about Vin Diesel and Dwayne Johnson's relationship because I really am not, you know, deep into the Fast and Furious franchise. I don't know why they don't like each other, but, you know, that's Hollywood for you. You know, there's egos all over the place. Egos abound. And, you know, they probably are both up for, like, the same parts, right? I mean, as far as I know, I don't think Vin Diesel is a wrestler. I don't think he was ever a wrestler, right? And Dwayne has kind of got that. He was already a star before, you know, he made it in, you know, movies and stuff. He was obviously big in the WWE. So I don't know. Maybe Vin thinks he got it easy. Maybe that's the reason why they have friction. I don't know. You know, it could be anything. I don't know. But thanks for the question. All right, so we did our little TV review here for the first. Gee, what is it? We're going on like 40 minutes now. We'll do some news now about stuff going on in the world of the MCU. Next, we've got Black Panther 2 news. Black Panther 2. Martin Freeman, who plays Everett Ross. Slip of the tongue. What are you going to do? While speaking to Collider about his new film, Ode to Joy, Martin Freeman all but confirmed that he will reprise the role of Everett Ross for Ryan Coogler's sequel, The Black Panther 2. He was quoted as saying, "As far as I know, I will be returning. As far as I know, I will be in another Black Panther film. That's my understanding. As to when it will happen, I don't know." So that's pretty cool. I liked Freeman's character. I don't think he was really necessary. So again, I don't know, you know, he's sort of he's the liaison, I guess, as they say, between Wakanda and America. You know, he's the ambassador, in other words. You know, he's the go-between between the countries. So I can see why he would be in this sequel. That's, you know, probably for the best. It's just one of those things like where I don't know if they really need him. I mean, you know, the Black Panther pretty much doesn't need a sidekick, you know what I mean? But yeah, that's cool. Let me know what you think in the comments below. What do you think about Martin Freeman returning to the role of Everett Ross? I keep wanting to say Elliot Ross. I don't know why. Elliot Ness, I'm thinking. I don't know. In Black Panther 2. All right, next up. Birds of Prey news. According to The Hollywood Reporter, John Wick director Chad Stahelski has been enlisted to help out on Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn. The filmmaker will reportedly oversee second unit photography and is set to work alongside current director Kathy Yan. His job will be to design and direct these additional scenes, and it's not uncommon for second unit footage to be held by someone else, hence why blockbusters have second unit directors. So this sounds pretty good. They got the guy from John Wick to do the action scenes of Birds of Prey. Again, I don't know how I feel about this film. I don't really know how it's gonna turn out. If what they say about it is true, it sounds pretty disastrous. But I don't know. I'll have to give it the benefit of the doubt until it comes out. I'm not sure. All right, but let me know what you think in the comments below or in the chat if you are watching live. And we move on back to the MCU. The Black Widow has picked up another cast member. Let's see, Kate Shortland has been directing the solo Black Widow film for weeks now, but supporting cast members continue to be revealed. This time, Dutch actor, bodybuilder, model Oliver Richards has been announced to appear in the film from social media. In his Instagram post, Richards reveals that he's already shot his scenes in the UK and shares his excitement about being part of the project. We don't have an official word on Oliver's role, but the IMDb credits him as the muscular gulag inmate. So there is a decent chance he'll only appear in one scene as a henchman that Scarlett Johansson's Natasha Romanoff will be forced to contend with. Black Widow also stars Florence Pugh, Rachel Weisz, and David Harbour, and will hit theaters May 1st, 2020. I'm still looking forward to this one. I hope it's going to be good. Again, like I said, I really wish they would... I wish they didn't kill off the Black Widow. To do her justice, I would love to see a trilogy. I guess they could do a trilogy of... prequels, pre-Endgame episodes, in her life, but I don't know, I think this is going to be it, and I feel bad to see her go. It's just a shame. Oh well, let me know how you feel about it in the comments below. Do you want to see more from the Black Widow, or do you think this will be a fitting send-off, the end of Scarlett Johansson's involvement in the MCU? All right, and finally, we got our big story of the night, our final story of the evening. Apparently now, this was sort of in rumor territory for the first, 24 hours, but I think it's confirmed now that Ewan McGregor has signed on the dotted line to return to the role of Obi-Wan Kenobi in a Disney project. I'm not sure if it is a series or a movie. Let me take a look. I'll read the copy. This will make it easier for you. Deadline has confirmed that Ewan McGregor has indeed signed on to return as Obi-Wan Kenobi in an untitled Disney Plus series. Okay, so they're going with the Disney Plus series. The show is rumored to be 6 to 8 episodes. So 6 to 8 episodes, that's not too bad. I imagine they'd be an hour long, so that's like getting maybe a trilogy of Obi-Wan movies. With the possibility of more if they sign on another season. That would be cool. That would be cool. There is a rumored mechanical adversary, and people are wondering what that is. I'm going to hope and go out on a limb and say it's going to be Darth Maul mechanical. He's got only... he's half the man he used to be. So, he's half mechanical. That could be it. I don't know. Some people are suggesting they're talking about... General Grievous, who I don't see how he could have survived. I mean, the guy was basically incinerated, completely on fire. But, I don't think anybody foresaw Darth Maul surviving getting cut in two, so anything's possible. Of course, this could also hint to Darth Vader. Vader is half mechanical. And some people are hoping also maybe Hayden Christensen would return. I don't think they're going to do Vader, at least not now. I think if the show goes for like 2 or 3 seasons, we're probably going to see Vader. I don't think they're going to do that for the first season. It also makes it difficult because I personally... There's wiggle room. There's wiggle room to be sure, but I personally don't think Vader saw Obi-Wan again after Sith until A New Hope. Because he says, I've been waiting for you, Obi-Wan, we meet again at last. Now, that could mean anything. He could have met him 3 times between those 20 years. But I don't know. The way that line comes off to me, it sounds like it's been a long time. It's been 20 years since I seen you, and because they kind of tried to have wiggle room with Count Dooku in the Clone Wars, and when they did that, it was, they couldn't have Anakin meet Grievous, but they could have Anakin meet Dooku again. And so they did that several times. It was like, oh, you know, my powers have doubled since the last time we met Count. And, you know, they met about 75 times over the course of the Clone Wars. And that was kind of funny, you know, that's the way it turned out. But I don't know. It's like, I kind of think you shouldn't overplay that. When someone says, you know, it's been a long time, or I've been waiting for this, you don't want to have them interact too many times. You know what I'm saying? It lessens the impact later of the big, you know, reveal, so to speak. All right, so that's all the information. Let me see. Let's see. Chances are we'll be getting some kind of official announcement at D23 next week. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments below. Will this work? I don't know. Do you think this should be, this is my question to you, do you think this should be a movie or a trilogy of movies, or do you think this will work better as a TV series? I think they definitely are putting all their chips on Disney Plus. I think that every home in America is probably going to have it for some reason or another, because you love Disney. They probably got programming for you. I really don't know what they got for Disney. I mean, they probably have Mickey Mouse and Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs or whatever. So that's one segment. You love the MCU, they're going to have plenty for you there, because they're going to have, you know, Falcon and Winter Soldier and WandaVision and Loki. And then if you're a Star Wars fan, you want to see more Star Wars content, they're going to have the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. They already have the Mandalorian in the can. So I can't see how this won't be successful. Like, compare it with the DC universe, where all they have basically is just DC related stuff, which is great, don't get me wrong, but you know, so far all they really had to hang their hat on is Titans, which is sort of you know, it's divisive among fans. Some people don't like, you know, Dick Grayson saying "F you, Batman," you know, and then Swamp Thing garnered some positivity from fans, and then they canceled it. So I don't really know. I kind of hope that the DC universe sticks around and gives us something worth sticking around for. I think Stargirl is going to be on that. They got a show for Stargirl. Again, I don't know a whole heck of a lot about Stargirl, so I don't know if that would be an inducement for me to pick up the service. But all right, so unless we have anything else from the chat, any more questions, Hunter? I'll give you a couple of seconds here if you want to ask another question. But I want to thank everybody for joining me here. This was our first show back, and apparently it worked out. So just gonna learn a few more tricks of the trade. I got to get the images back on OBS so that we can show some different things that we're talking about. I don't think it's that difficult to do, but quite honestly, I'm always a firm believer in the saying, you have to walk before you can run. So let's find out we can do this first, then we'll add some images, and then I still got to add the event times so you know when I'm going to be streaming and stuff. I just went on like that. I'm glad the notifications went out, I guess, because Hunter got one. So again, thank you very much for joining me here on the only way to spend your Saturday here with us on Johnny Torch Live and the Torch News Roundup. Want to thank you for liking, hit that like button, share whenever possible, and subscribe if you haven't already. I want to thank a couple of subscribers I have that joined recently. I think I picked up 2 new subscribers. So yeah, I think I gotta check out my info there, and I'll mention them by name if I can find them in my. I always was mystified why they don't let you find out who your subs are. It's like you get an email, and sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't, or it'll show up on your sub page or something like that. And it's just hard to find out for some reason. I don't know why, but anyway, I'm always thankful that each and every sub, and we're going to try to keep getting content out here. I want to go back to doing what's it called, studio videos, so that I can get back to that. I got a lot of stuff I want to do and just haven't got a chance to do it. But because I'm working on the book very diligently, and hopefully you will check that out. One more plug for The Adventures of Bullets, Bourbon, Private Eye. You can check it out in the link in the description below. Got a lot of exciting stuff coming up. I just picked up some swag to hand out at the convention, Granite State Con. We're going to be there September 14th and 15th, and hope to see you there. We're going to debut the graphic novel When the Night Comes, and we're gonna take about 15% off of our books as a thank you to fans, and you know, I'm trying to sell out the old stock, and we're gonna just sell the graphic novel from here on out. So you can expect like maybe 15% off the cover price. Alright, so again, until next we meet, this is Johnny Torch reminding you once again, keep the flame burning brightly, and I'll be with you again real soon.